All right. Good morning, Jamie. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So I've got your resume here in front of me. You've applied to an office administrator position for a client of mine. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your last position? It looks like you're working as a staff legal operations team lead. Are you still at the Hartford right now?
No, unfortunately, I had lost my role was downsized during COVID.
Okay.
So the about the I think it was like July of last year,
Okay.
which was totally fine. My son ended up going virtual, so all kinds of works its way out, whatever. So he kind of did that first year as virtual. We've gotten him back into school now, so now I'm kind of ready to okay, now it's kind of time to not be home anymore.
I understand that. Ready to get back out there. Now, are you looking for in-office work? Or are you looking for something hybrid? What are your thoughts there?
As long as I'm pretty, that's one of the things that I was most interested about this one was that it is here in Longwood. So if I do need to do in person, at least I'm close enough. If my son's got issues at school or something, so I don't have an objection either way. Prior to COVID, we were always in office anyways.
Okay.
And of course, we went remote temporarily. So it's been a mix of both, but it doesn't really matter. I'm kind of a people person. I'm getting kind of tired of being stuck alone in the house all day long. So
I hear you on that, hence I'm still here. So I totally understand. All right, so let's talk about your work background a little bit. So this position is an office administrator role. So tell me what a typical day looked like in your last position.
Well, they were all pretty much the same. So it's pretty because Zurich and Hartford were almost identical.
Okay.
So it is, even though they were within corporations, being the larger insurance companies, the staff legal offices, they were independent themselves. We had our own address, our own location within the company itself. So we really managed it like a small company. So the day to day would be not only being responsible for the staff that worked there. So I had paralegals, legal secretaries, clerks reporting to me, but I also had to maintain the actual offices themselves. Ordering the office supplies, dealing with the vendors, kind of going in and problem solving when we have any kind of system issues, equipment issues, that sort of thing. And I did that across multiple offices. So Hartford, I had 2 offices, one in Lake Mary, Florida, and then one in Hollywood.
Okay.
And then Zurich, I actually had 5. So I actually had 5 that went up the chain of north to south Florida. So it was kind of similarly, I would travel around to each of them if they were, having problems, just kind of coming in and doing that problem solving and just, really making sure the day to day that the office was running.
So I love that. I love about your background, the fact that you worked for a larger company, but like you pointed out, the fact that you guys were your own departments, you kind of had a small
Yep.
business. I really like that. How many folks did you say were reporting to you?
At either one of those, let's see here. Zurich, I probably had 10 secretaries or so. Hartford, I've been about the same. The largest amount of people I've had reporting to me was actually my very first, when I first moved into management, a paralegal manager at KEL Attorneys. I had 25 paralegals reporting to me. So, God willing, that never happens again.
I hear you there. Now, why are you looking to make a move out of the legal industry?
There wasn't anything real specific about being out of the legal industry. It's just now's really the time for me to get back in. I'm pretty well done, even though they were the small offices within corporate. It still had all the corporate politics, red tape, all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of out of that. I'm really most interested in getting into something a bit smaller where I've got a better work-life balance. I mean, when I was working at the Hartford and Zurich, we're talking 50, 70 hours a week, traveling constantly, having to put all the reliance on my husband to take care of the household. I'm trying to, COVID has given me a different perspective on life and what's really most important. Obviously, I think that, a lot of people have kind of gone through. So it's not that I'm attempting to leave the legal industry. There's just, I'll be quite frank, there's just nothing available right now. I've really just started looking. I don't really want to hesitate any longer. So yeah, my understanding and my background has been within the legal industry, but running an office is running an office, right? I mean, you're still dealing with the clients, you're still dealing with the same kind of vendors. So there wasn't really specific of, oh, I'm tired of legal. It's just I enjoy running offices. I do it well. I do it well with staff.
So now this is a long-term position. This client is definitely not looking for someone to work for a couple months and then leave. So how are you going to, manage your job search? Because I know you did say you just started. So I do feel like that's something I want to kind of tackle on the front end. If it's something else open back up in the legal industry, are you going to be continuing to look to make a move, or are you looking for your forever home?
No, every time I've gone into a job, it's been this is where I'm going to be as my retirement, right? I'm being very methodical about my applying. I know it's a little probably a little different for somebody to come from corporate America and come back into the temp industry. It's a great way. I understand it's like temp to perm. It's kind of a good long-term interview or short-term interview between myself and the company and myself. Again, to just I want to make sure that it is the right fit. I am looking at this as being a long-term move. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to go into this and be scouring for other things, because the idea of looking for a job, like most people, kind of makes me want to vomit most of the times. I don't like the process, right? You want
I,
to go in and be good with what you're doing, right? So I'm
okay.
definitely not looking for like that stepping stone.
Okay, that sounds great. Now, with managing others, so let's say you're in a situation where people are coming to you with a number of different things. So in this role, you could have folks from one department needing your help, maybe to put a fire out, others that maybe just need an update or status update. How do you manage your day with dealing with multiple departments and managing multiple people in those departments?
Well, it's definitely a challenge, and it's definitely something that I've experienced, obviously, very intently on a larger scale, coming from corporate America versus like when I was in private practice before. It was really just the people within the firm coming to me. So, I've been used to juggling. Okay, my paralegal has an issue with the court system versus my legal secretary can't seem to get this deposition. Oh, and then the printer has just broken, so now I got to get on the phone with Rico. Right? How do you fix a printer? You kind of self-teach these kinds of things. Oh yeah, now I got to give my boss some data related reports, right? So I really just I tackle each day kind of the same way. I think about, okay, what do I know? What are my critical items? What has to get done today versus where? And I really try to block out time in my calendar where I have more open white space to
Okay.
have that time available for when all those emergencies and fires come up.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to constantly intermingle those into other emergencies that I know are going to be critical. So for instance, if I know if I've got a project that needs to be done or a report that needed to be done by the end of the day, maybe I would come in a little bit early or work a little extra that night. That way I could have some like head down, silent focus to make sure that that was a critical need. I needed to get that done. And then open myself up for the next day for the 100 fires that were going to compound on top of me.
Yep. I love the background in the legal industry, being that you are used to dealing with a very fast-paced environment and a lot of moving parts. I think it would be very relevant to this position. I feel like it goes without saying that you are probably very computer savvy. What computer software programs do you have the most experience with outside of legal programs?
Yeah, so all of your Microsoft related projects, and into project manage as well. So, Word, Excel, Visio, PowerPoint, SharePoint, any like data transmission services, DocuSigns, all those kinds of things. When the company started going remote last year because of COVID, then we went in and did a self-teaching. I actually took on the responsibility of doing self-teachings of how to utilize Microsoft Teams in order for the company to stay more collaborative. That was not an environment that we'd had before. So I've done a lot, YouTube is my best friend. So I'm typically on YouTube every day. Okay, how do we do this? How do you do that? Actually, I was just on it today to figure out something for my son's PowerPoint presentation. How do you put this background picture in the back without, blurring out all the text, whatever. So
Yep.
him and I were constantly, thank God I have a 12-year-old in the house. He's keeping me very computer savvy because I have to keep up to date with all of the stuff that he's doing because he goes to a technology school. So everything they do is all online. It's all, computer based and stuff. So we're having to be very collaborative together and really learn and teach each other.
Fantastic. I can relate to that. I've got a 12-year-old as well too, so I know exactly what you mean there.
Oh yeah.
So Jamie, my final question for the recording portion of this interview is, what is the most important thing to you about the next company that you're going to work for?
Just this transparency, a lot of decisions have to get made above and below you, right? And kind of being in that middle management, it's a kind of a tricky area, right? Where you're having to garner information out of your senior leadership and figure out what you can, delineate down to your reporting teams. And I find that, where that kind of middleman process kind of happens is where your employees don't feel like they're getting all the relevant information from you, right? And you might know that, okay, maybe executive teams kind of withholding information that really could be useful. And how much more of that can we actually share down to the teams? Because they say it all the time, employees don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers. And a lot of times what I've heard over the years is just they don't feel like they get enough relevant information about what's going on and kind of the whys behind decision making. So those are the conversations that I have a lot with my executive leaders is, how much more transparency can we actually provide to our employees to show that we trust them to take this information, keep it within themselves, to continue to do right by the company, but give them something that they can really like put their teeth into and really understand why we're making some of the changes that we're making, or is this step one of 20, and this is why maybe it doesn't make sense right now, right? And so really just trying to bring more people into the mix, and making sure that our employees feel like their opinions and their recommendations and suggestions are being heard and valued and actually being put into place. Because what I've learned over the years is I don't have all the answers. And if I'm not at the desk level, I don't presume to know everything that happens in that employee's job on a day-to-day basis. So I don't want to make a change to some workflow that they're doing if I don't have that good critical understanding of it. So really getting my employees involved in that to say, hey, walk me through that. And how would this change really affect you negatively versus positively? Let's have that conversation so we can make sure it's a collaborative effort. And then you get the buy-in from the team. When it comes to like change management, they're a little bit more willing to kind of get uncomfortable when they have a better understanding of what's the value in that for them.
That's fantastic. Jamie, you've really impressed me this morning. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording portion of this interview and then talk with you a little bit more in depth about the position, if that sounds good.
Absolutely.